Giving people admin power over their own computers is one of the most basic cybersecurity mistakes that I see. But fortunately for you, if you're a Microsoft 365 user, there's a technology called Lapse, and I'm going to show you how to implement it today. But first, before we start, just a quick intro. My name is Jonathan Edwards, also known as the Bearded 365 Guy. I help businesses all over the world with the Microsoft 365. You can find me at bearded365guy.com. So, what is the problem we're trying to solve here? Well, let's first talk about what local admin access really means. If you log onto your computer with your username and password, if your username is part of the administrator group, it means that you can do whatever you want on your computer. You've got full admin access. You can install software. You can change whatever settings you want. You have the keys to the entire computer. Now, you might be thinking, that's really convenient. However, because you have full admin access to your computer, it also means that if you're unfortunate to get hacked, the hacker or the malicious software also has full admin access to your computer, and it can wreak maximum damage. Now, if you look at a lot of cybersecurity frameworks, including Cyber Essentials here in the UK, then having local admin access to your computer is an immediate fail. So you're aware of the problem. How is admin access managed today? Well, if you've got a decent IT company or a decent IT department, they will make sure that every person in the business using the computers are part of the standard access group. That means they can't install software and they can't change settings. Then there'll be like a master IT password that only IT people have. When you want to install software on a computer or do anything advanced, you ring IT and they will enter the master password. But this approach also has a problem. The master password is usually the same. So if you've got a business with 10, 50, 1,000 computers, they will be one master password. Now imagine for a moment if someone got hold of that master password. That wouldn't be good. So what's the answer? Well, if I could design a solution, it would look a little bit like this. I would make sure that every computer in your business had a different master password. It sounds a little bit like something off Ocean's 11. But at the same time, it also sounds really difficult to manage. But fortunately for you, that is a solution that I'm talking about in today's video. There's a solution built within Microsoft 365 called Local Administrator Password Solution. But that is too long, so we'll call it Lapse for short. Now, without further ado, let me show you how to set up Lapse for your business. Let's go. Okay, so I'm logged into the Microsoft 365 Admin Center with a global admin. The first thing I'm going to do is just open another page. I'm going to go to portal.azure.com. And once that logs in, I'm after Microsoft Entra ID. Now you can see it's there, but if it's not there, you can always search for it up here. So I'll go into there. I'm going to go down to Manage and Devices. And then from there, I'm going to go to Device Settings. I'm going to scroll down. Now, there's some local administrator settings here that I'm going to come back to later in the video. But for now, I'm just going to enable Lapse by simply toggling this to yes. And I'm going to click on Save. Okay. Go back to my Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Go to Admin Centers. And now I'm going to go to Endpoint Manager. Okay. If I go to Endpoint Security, and I'm going to go to Account Protection. And I'm going to create a new policy. The platform drop down, I'm going to choose Windows 10 or later. And then I'm going to choose from here, Local Admin Password Solution. And I'll create that policy. Now, the first thing it wants to do is give this policy a name. So I'll just call this Lapse Policy, which I think is a good name. Click on Next. And then I've got some options. So what I'm going to do to start with is, where do we want to back up these passwords to? So at the moment, it's not configured. We've got a few options. We want to back it up to Azure AD, or you can back it up as well if you've got on-premise to Active Directory, but we're going to do Azure AD. The Password age days, there's a bit of an information on what this means. So this is the maximum age of the password. If you choose this as not configured, it will default to 30 days, okay? And when it comes to Azure AD, you've got an option of 7 days right up to 30 or more. Now the administrator account name. So what you can do here, rather than the username just being administrator, you could choose something like, for example, IT admin, something like that. But to keep it nice and simple, I'll choose set this as not configured. Password complexity. We've got quite a few options. How complex do you want the password? You want it quite complex. If you choose this to not configured, it will default to this one here. So you'll have uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and characters. So I will choose this as set this as not configured. Again, password length. How long do you want the password to be? It needs to be quite long. Again, if you leave this as not configured, then it will default to 14 characters, but you can change it. It can go right down to 8, which I probably wouldn't advise, and it can go right up to 64 characters, okay? I'll just leave that as it is, and I will leave these two settings as well. Click on next, and then I'll go to assignments, and I will assign all devices, and I will click on next, and I will create this policy. So that policy has now been created. Now, if I hop over to device, this is just a test tenant. There's not a lot of devices in here. I think I've got one. Yeah, I've got one live device, which is the other one called Autopilot 032. Now, that is this device here. Okay, so it's used by a fictitious person called Fred Finance. If I go back to here now, okay, in my experience, it can take a bit of time for this to kick in. So I will pause the video and I'll come back soon. Okay, if I now go to endpoint security gain, if I go to account protection and go to my lapse policy, you can see that this is starting to happen. We've got some syncing accounts going on and that policy has updated. So what I can do now is go to devices. I can go to Windows and I can go here and this is my device. Now down the left hand side here, you can see local admin password. If I click on there, you can see I've got a local admin password. I can click on show and there is my password. So it says last password rotation a few minutes ago. And the next one is going to be in about 30 days time. So that will automatically update. I don't need to do anything. Now, if there's a point that you want to update the password, perhaps you're concerned that someone has it or something like that. Well, if we just go to here, this is how you manually rotate the password. You click on these 3 dots. You click rotate local admin password and then you click on yes and you can see that will go to pending and in time that will reset the local admin password. So you can either leave it for 30 days or you can manually do it here. Okay, so that is pretty much lapse. Now I said at the start of this video that I was just going to go back to some settings in here. This is quite new to Entra, so local admin settings. So at the moment, your Microsoft 365 Global Administrator role is added as a local admin on each device. I think this is too much, and I would go in here and select no and click on save. That means users in the global admin role don't have local admin over each device. So with that in mind, you can manage all your local admin with lapse. Okay, so I hope that all makes sense. So that's lapse. So I hope that video has been informative. As you can see, setting up lapse is really easy. So go out and do it for your business today.